Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I'm Robin Smith, and I'd like to begin by welcoming each of you to a new year. Hope you all have a happy and healthy new year full of beneficial change. And thanks for being here today on this Sunday. Today, the first teaching of the year, we're going to be hearing from Haney, and she'll speak about generosity, transforming the heart. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Kara. Haney's been practicing meditation since 1993 and leading Vipassana meditation since 1996. She practices the fifth precept of full renunciation from intoxicants with over 20 years sober and utilizes the Buddhist teachings on the Four Noble Truths for process addiction. In 2013, she assisted in starting Buddhist recovery groups in Santa Cruz and has been a foundational member and mentor for the community. Kara attends multiple Vipassana retreats each year, and she's been empowered to teach by Bob Stahl, trained to facilitate mindfulness and Buddhist meditation through the former Against the Stream Meditation Society, and is currently in the Spirit Rock Community Dharma Leader 2-year program. She's been active as the program coordinator for Insight Santa Cruz for 5 years and was a member of the board for 4 years. She teaches weekly meditation groups at Insight Santa Cruz and offers day-long retreats. She currently lives in downtown Santa Cruz with her teenage son, and she recently went back to school for a master's degree in social work. So welcome, Kara. We're very excited to have you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's nice to be here in this beginning of the new year. So I also want to wish you a happy new year of this transition of a new year, a new day, this new breath. And thank you, Robin, for inviting me, and Buddhist Recovery Network for inviting me here to share the Dhamma with you and to share and practice with you in this way. And so in deep gratitude that I get to practice with you. And I started to smile because it's so interesting with that the long introduction of kind of who I am and what I do in this world. And I forget about I guess it would be kind of like a Buddhist resume. And so I was feeling my heart, just feeling some gratitude of this life and this practice. And in speaking about practice, why don't we go ahead and do some practice and invite ourselves to arrive here together. And so if you're been here waiting to come online with each of us, or if you're just coming online right now, we'll start with some meditation and just settling in before we start with the Dhamma talk on generosity and gratitude. And so beginning to invite stillness to the body, noticing whatever was happening, the effort and energy that got you to this place here, to just let that go. If there's something unresolved, if there's a plan, you can pick it up later after our time together. And just give yourself this gift of resting in this moment. So I invite you to close your eyes if that isn't something that feels comfortable for you at this moment. Just downcast the eyes to the floor, allowing some relaxation. And begin to feel the body and the seat that you're on, the contact points, this earth that's supporting you. Beginning to feel where they meet. And invite softness or relaxation to the forehead, letting your tongue drop from the roof of your mouth, allowing your throat to soften, dropping your shoulders down your back, soften your belly, and continue for a few moments to just invite relaxation to this body. As you'll notice, your awareness may come to there's a vibration in the body of movement that is happening organically on its own. Breathing is happening. And so you may notice this slight movement. You bring your attention to the breathing if that's accessible to you. Allow the attention to rest with the breath. Breathing in, know that you are breathing in. And breathing out, know that you're breathing out. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. It's allowing ourselves to rest here with the breath, giving it some of our attention, if not all of our attention, for just a few moments. You may find that the mind has wandered. Maybe there's a thought of judgment or a memory, a plan, a fantasy, an emotion, some mental activity that's arisen. It's okay. There's nothing that you are doing wrong. It's just what the mind does. We are here practicing of training the mind to unhook from these stories and just be with what is present now, sitting, breathing, resting the attention on this body, on this breath. And the practice is again and again remembering to bring mindfulness to whatever your anchor is, if it's the breath, if it's the body on the seat. Pick one. Allowing everything else, all other phenomena, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, to just arise and pass, as if they're going down a stream. We notice it, we let it go. We don't grab onto it. We don't cling to it. We acknowledge it. Oh, a thought, thinking, and come back to the breath for the next few moments. Thank you for practicing in this period of meditation, just being with the first foundation of body, pretty much the breath and the body to settle in. And just with gratitude again for practicing in this period of time. And it's interesting sometimes when we come to practice, we feel that our meditation, our formal practice is to be 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but the time we just shared together was maybe 7 minutes, if that. And it's this short period to just check in with our own heart, with our own, like, what is happening in this experience right now? How am I relating with experience right now? Is it pleasant, unpleasant, neither? And allowing ourselves to relax and soften into this moment. So thank you for your effort and energy. So today's topic, as I mentioned, is this practice of cultivating and transforming the heart through the practice of generosity. And many of us have heard the Pali word for generosity. We may hear it at the end of a, Dhamma talk, or when we come to places such as Buddhist Recovery Network, and we hear that dāna means generosity. It's a practice. And it is a practice. It's a strength that supports our practice. It's a cultivating of a strength. It's also cultivating letting go. Now, I don't have to feel like that old saying of preaching to the choir. All of us here in a various spectrum of where we're practicing renunciation, we're understanding what letting go is, yeah? Could be our relationship to the clinging and craving to substances or other people and relationships. It can be some behaviors we have. And so this is another aspect of that. It's this letting go of, the Buddha taught about the 3 unwholesome roots of greed, hatred, and ignorance or delusion. And this is that the clinging and the greed, and we're learning to let go, and we're learning to give, we're learning to share. And so this giving that I'm talking about, I don't know if you're like me, but through many years in my life, I would give something, but there would be this string attached. The motivation was, if I give this, if I give you my attention, then you'll like me. Or if I give you a gift, then you'll like me. It's always around like the sense of, for me, where my attachment was and where my clinging was is this. It wasn't giving freely without expecting anything in return. It was, I want to give something so that I could be sensed either valuable to you, so that you would like me and not abandon me. And it was this deep root of unworthiness. And so it took this practice of really cultivating the sense of generosity, of what is it that I'm giving without wanting anything in return, and noticing, what does it feel like when I give? And so ways that this can be practiced is such as walking down the street. Maybe we see somebody that is asking for some type of assistance, right? And this is just a common example that maybe you've experienced, where maybe somebody's sitting at the sidewalk and they're asking for money or some type of help. And sometimes, if we are the human beings that we are, and we're busy and we're caught up in our own stories and our own agenda for the day, we don't even acknowledge that there's somebody sitting there. Or where there's a sense of aversion or uncomfortableness, right? And so we may look at our phone instead of looking at a person, to just give the idea, to portray that we're busy. But instead, maybe in that instance, can we turn our attention to the person that is asking for help? And maybe we do give whatever it is they're asking, but maybe it's just a small amount. And I invite you to practice, if you'd like, the small amount of making eye contact and giving a smile. This is a practice of generosity. Generosity is this human connection. It's the giving, it's connecting, it's supporting each other, and supporting in turn our own hearts, and transforming this openness, and transforming the greed and the stinginess that can be there. Because often there's this delusion that we're coming from lack, when really we have such an abundance that we forget. And what is mindfulness but a practice of remembering? And so this mindfulness practice, or this ethical practice, this Dhamma practice, is remembering again and again to give. So it's done in relationship. You know, when we hear about how this, as I mentioned with the example, this interconnectedness with us and all beings. We can give another example of the places that we practice. Here is a place, a platform that we practice, the Buddhist Recovery Network. And so there's a way that, you know, we are giving to others, but in a way you're giving to your own heart by taking the effort and energy of coming to this platform, of being with teachers and as myself and with Sangha that are all here and supporting each other in our practice. So we're giving ourselves this opportunity. And another way that we can practice this is by supporting the Buddhist Recovery Network. And so how do we do that? We do that by showing up. And we do that also by contemplating what is the value of this Sangha, of this platform that we're in right now. And so when I sit here, and for years, not many, because online hasn't been around for that long in my lifespan, but for the last, 5 years or so, the online platform I used to have this story about it and some idea of like, yeah, I don't know, I want to be in person. And then I started to see such a value, especially when moments where I've been ill, when I have had friends who haven't been able to leave their house for whatever reason, or I haven't left the house, and I can still connect with my fellow human beings, and I can still have that deep heart sense of normalizing my experience that arises in this human, the sense of unworthiness or fear or, the hindrances of the mind, and I can share and talk. And so I started to see how valuable these online platforms are. And just as anything in this world, one of the ways that I can support to make sure that Buddhist Recovery Network is still here for me is by giving in monetary ways, and that supports all the behind the scenes of the video, the audio, the people that are doing all the work behind the scenes of putting podcasts on. And so how I've practiced with monetary, and here in the Western world, sometimes we live in a capitalistic society. I'm not going to go down that whole road of explaining any of that for you, and because we know, but we have these different relationships of money, right? And what that is and what that means. And so there was a teacher once that taught me like, well, how do you know what to give? And what is my relationship? And again, I come from lack rather than abundance. And so one teacher shared with me when I was at a sit to go to the dāna basket and come to the sit with a whole bunch of $1 bills. So I came with, to me, and this is subjective, a whole bunch of $1 bills was like 25 $1 bills, And so I brought 25 $1 bills. And the teacher started telling me, just keep putting the dollars into the basket until it started to feel a little uncomfortable, right? And so I'd start putting these dollar bills in the basket, and, about $5, 5 ones, $1 bills, I started feeling really slowly I was doing it and in tune with what is this sensation of the body. And it felt just like a vibrant feeling, right? A connection. I started feeling this pleasant feeling that was being cultivated. And it was like this internal smiling that was happening. And then $10 started going, and I started feeling just that abundance. And it was interesting. The next dollar of 11, it's like the abundance grew. And then at some point, it probably was getting close to the $20 mark as I was putting the $1 bills in. There was a tightness that started coming into my chest. And pretty soon it felt like, oh, now is enough. It's time to stop. And that was about almost $20. And then with some energy and effort, I told myself, okay, this feels right. And then I'll give $1 more. And there's this sense of supporting both myself with the financial means that I need for my own well-being and livelihood, and supporting the center that I was at, and that I was supporting that particular sit because I understood the value. And in that particular practice I'm sharing about is also going in depth to my relationship with money and relinquishing and letting go and feeling the sensations of where stinginess may arise, or greed, whichever word you'd like to use. The sense of, oh, this is getting close to my limit, and just meeting that edge and not pushing it too far, just gently just inviting the, what would happen if I gave one more? And so this is one example, and there are many. This is one example of looking at our relationship with monetary means and how we can support. And of course, as Robin mentioned, there's ways we don't actually hand over dollar bills in this type of platform, but there's ways that we can give dāna in an electronic way. And so there's ways that we practice with that. Generosity helps us connect with others, and also it allows us to see where we are closed off, or where we are holding back, or where there is fear. We get to be intimate with that fear and breathe into and begin to understand in depth this relationship with ourselves and with lack and with fear, and how it can transform. Again, this also, it takes patience, right? It takes effort. It takes willingness to investigate. And another Pali word is kataññuta, which is gratitude, right? And so I find from my practice of dāna and generosity, there's something else that's also equally being cultivated, which is the sense of gratitude. And so gratitude comes from metta, right? It comes from this place of kindness. And so it's an effort. The Buddha even taught about that there's, well, one of the teachings is that there's two types of people in this world, and there's two, and we can be both of them actually. But one is one who does kindness, an act of kindness. And then there's one who's grateful for a kindness that has been done, right? And so I find that this platform of Buddhist Recovery Network, or I find that Insight Santa Cruz, where I go and I'll sit with a teacher, I have such gratitude that this is present for me, that I'm able to attend here and I can see the value. And that gratitude for my own heart has a sense of warmth. It feels expansive. It feels open. I feel a sense of connection. And there's like this internal smile. It may not actually rise on my lips, or it may, but I can sense it. And so that is the gratitude of the kindness of those before me who have set up the conditions for Buddhist Recovery Network to be here in this way. And then again, how I express my gratitude is this act of kindness, which dāna is a practice of kindness, that sense of generosity, by giving support, by showing up, by being of service, by connecting with each and every one of you. So I think with my talking about dāna and generosity and gratitude, I do want to pause there, because I want to open up so that we can have some dialogue and talk about connection and talk about, I invite you to come on either by message or on video of how you practice this generosity, or what is the edge for you that you're beginning to investigate with your practice of generosity and gratitude. And so I invite us, you may have some questions, and it can be around this topic of transforming the heart through generosity. Or you may have a question about meditation practice with the short period of practice we did earlier in my instructions. So I'll pause for a moment and allow your voice and honor your voice, be it by typing or by coming online, to interact with us as a Sangha. So thank you.
Hi, Kara. Kara, I could kick it off.
Sure.
Yes, in your experience, what are some of the best meditations that you can use to cultivate this sense of generosity and actually the gratitude, even beginning with ourselves?
Sure. Thank you, Robin. That's a great question. And one of the practices I often do, because it's the kindness practice, is a metta practice. And so this metta practice of giving to both myself, may I be happy, and I'll even do the traditional, which is, bringing to my own awareness of, may I be happy in this moment, may I be healthy, may I be free from suffering, and then transforming that attention to my own heart then to somebody who is a benefactor, and somebody who is a neutral person, and then somebody who I have resentment with, or we're not quite getting along, and then to all beings. Because this traditional way of doing this type of metta practice allows me to give. And so I'm giving some kindness towards myself, and the overarch is all beings. And so I practice in that way. It's relinquishing any type of clinging that I have, and it's bringing kindness. It's cultivating kindness. And as we know, if there is a heart, I know from my own heart, if there's a heart that has hatred, and hatred's such a strong word, but it could just be simply dislike, or maybe the word doesn't even come to mind. It's that feeling, that guttural feeling of aversion. The transforming that is metta practice. And so when I'm able to practice more metta, I'm able to have an imprint in my own heart of what it's like to give and what it's like to be generous in a kind way. And when that is cultivated, that seed can grow. Then it turns into this state of generosity, and it cultivates into gratitude. So I would start with metta first. It's one of the things that I practice on a regular basis. Thank you, Robin, for the question.
What about the qualities of generosity and how they may really boost our capacity to remain, to get into recovery and to remain in recovery?
Yeah, thank you again. So oftentimes coming into recovery, and we come from a various spectrum of where we are on that field, right? And so this practice of letting go and relinquishing, like I mentioned about, be it substances or be it a process addiction, be it with codependent behavior with people, whichever it is, what it really boils down to is craving, right? And it could even, a broader sense, is craving things to be different than they are right now, right? That's what's causing suffering. And so this practice of generosity, this practice is, can I be with this moment? And I bring in my mindfulness practice. Can I be with this moment exactly as it is? And allowing myself to see in this moment, where are the ways that I can meet it with kindness, where I can meet it with compassion? So if during our practice, and I'm going to talk about formal practice right now. So during the practice, and there's a moment of dis-ease, there's definitely a moment of, maybe it's a strong emotion or a memory that comes into the mind, and we're feeling agitated or restless. So to pause in the kind response, and how we can practice generosity first with the practice, and then I'll go into our other interacting with others, is that this is meeting it with compassion. This is a moment of suffering right now. Just calling it in of what it is. This is a moment of suffering, feeling the tightness in my chest, feeling like I want to get up from my practice. I don't want to do this anymore. Just noting that this is a moment of suffering. May I care about this moment? And may I give myself what I need in this moment, which is taking another deep breath, inviting the relaxation again, maybe opening the eyes and just taking in some light, you know? And so cultivating that in the practice so we can allow it to imprint in on our hearts. And then with others, when we're going to, you know, meet with other people, when we have relationships with people, when we go to like our Sangha and our recovery settings, meeting that person with our generosity can practice in, can I do active listening? When someone comes and we ask them how their day was, can we actually fully take in what they're saying without preparing what I'm going to say, right? And checking in with what are the sensations in this body as we're listening to them. And so giving them our attention, and then speaking from our own heart, our experience, understanding our speech, that it's speech that's coming from harmony and not harm. And so these are ways that we can interact with others in a place of that dāna, that generosity. And this is not, like I said, this isn't the monetary ways of supporting centers or supporting teachers. This is supporting each other with our attention, our mindful attention, coming from the heart. That sense of, I bow to you, right? As I bow to my own heart, because we are both people on this path trying to uncover our suffering. And as you know, and as I know, there are people, maybe they're even in our Sangha, or there's people we're going to come across that we've had a historical challenge with, or there's somebody that we're just not getting along with for whatever reason. And rather than bringing our attention into that story and keep weaving that story to create that person again and again in our reality, can we bring our wisdom to understand that if the person has hurt us, that hurt people, right? And that we ourselves, we have given the generosity to know that this human being, this human process before us is going through some dukkha. They're going through suffering themselves, just as I myself, you yourself, goes through suffering. And so we give that generosity to understand that this is a human experience and that we're going to falter and we're going to make mistakes, but can we still turn towards each other in a way where I see you, I care about you. Now, that also means boundaries are important to put in place, you know, because I'm speaking so generally. You know, if you are being harmed by someone, it's important that we set those boundaries. But generally speaking, in a Sangha, you know, when we know somebody that's in the room, maybe it's their tone of their voice when they share, or they're always sharing about this topic, or and what arises naturally is like, oh yes, this again, that impatient mind state or something. To be mindful when that arises and go, impatience. What is impatience trying to teach me? And this person that has helped activating that impatience, that's helping that the condition for impatience to arise, this person is my greatest teacher. And so meeting it with that kind of attitude and strengthening our own practice of generosity.
And I don't know, I feel like not only have you shared ways of giving, but you've given us a deeper perspective on how far-reaching and deeply investigative generosity can be, and even the gratitude practice, both internally and externally. So it's been tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to end, I will share the link again for donating to the Buddhist Recovery Academy, and just share this thought from Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who said, generosity is an act of true freedom, and thus the perfect place to start the path of total release. And next month on February 2nd, we have Vince Cullen who will be offering a teaching, and we hope you all return. Thanks so much, and have a really amazing and present week.